Welcome to the show. My guest today is Derek Kent, Global Chief Marketing Officer and founder at Alter Empire, a strategic brand communications company. After an 8-year career with Nike, including at its world headquarters in New York City, Derek became Chief Marketing Officer for the Canadian Olympic Committee for 7 years. If you remember the Canada Olympic House, during the 2018 Pyeongchang Games, well, Derek and his team were behind it, in addition to many other very moving athlete campaigns over the years. He is also a TEDx speaker, and for all of these reasons, I can't think of a better person to talk to about storytelling. Derek Kent, what's your favorite story?
So, John, my favorite story stems from my time at Nike. There was a campaign we did called Light It Up. It was really about a time in the NHL where scoring was down. And this campaign was all about filling up the net with pucks. We were doing an event in Shaunavon, Saskatchewan. And for your viewers who know geography in Canada, Shaunavon is really in an area that's not easily accessible. I ended up getting a ride to Shaunavon with the person who caretakes the Stanley Cup, which is kind of a thrill for me. Anyway, the plane landed late. We're in the SUV, barreling along the highway on the prairies, and all of a sudden we get this siren. So we get pulled over by the Mounties. Window goes down. Mountie leans in. "You were speeding, sir." And then, of course, the Stanley Cup guy says, "I was just saying, my friend," we weren't talking at all, "it'd be great to get a picture of the Stanley Cup." And then, of course, the Mountie's like, "You got the Stanley Cup in the back seat?" And he's like, "Sure, you want to see it?" Of course, we unpack the Stanley Cup. A photo op ensues with the Mountie. He radios his partner who comes from the other direction. He gets a photo op. And the moral of the story is, if you get pulled over by the police, if possible, have a trophy of a professional sporting organization in the back seat, and the ticket will take care of itself.
Oh, great story. If only we could all be so lucky. And I like that there's, a little bit of action, intrigue, suspense, and of course the white glove guy, and a happy ending.
Yeah, for us it was.
So what for you, Derek, is the goal of a good story?
For me, when we're doing storytelling, whether it's in marketing or watching a movie or reading a book, it's really about the plot. It's about tension. It's about creating an emotional reaction. And the best stories make you feel. And you feel something when you read them, when you see them or hear them. And, as a marketer, we're always looking for insights that help provoke an emotional reaction. And when I think of the best marketing campaigns in the world, I always think of campaigns that made me feel something. And that's the starting point. Now,
and I love the attention to capturing emotion, helping people feel something, or helping them compensate for a feeling that they need to feel. When you look at any search of how to tell a story, one thing that I'm surprised that I see often in telling a story is make sure you have a beginning, middle, and an end. And I'm just surprised that it's always in there, because it must be something that people really forget to do. Have a beginning, have a middle, have an end. Can you say a little bit more about that and some other things that people should think about if it's the first time that they've had to craft a story?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty standard operating procedure to say you've got to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. For me, it's also about more than that. You've got to have tension. You have to have a bit of something that's unexpected, something that might surprise and delight the audience, because at the end of the day, you've got to put the audience at the center of everything that you do when storytelling, because they're the people that will consume it. They're the people that will feel it and either give you high marks if it resonates or low marks if it doesn't. So I think you need something that's a bit of surprise and delight within any type of communication. So that's the way I always look at it.
So in a crowded field, though, of stories and coming from diverse sources, where especially now, where anyone with even never mind a video camera, a smartphone can tell a story. even with that mixture of tension and surprise and delight, how do you get a story to stand out in a crowded field today?
Well, I think one first step is when it comes to advertising is insights. So when I worked at Nike, we really dived deeply into the insights of the athletes. You know, what is it about the product that makes them either feel better on the court or feel the play or gives them a competitive advantage? And then the case of other clients or other campaigns, it's insights about the story that you're trying to tell. You know, one campaign that really resonated with me was the Sick Kids commercial. That was really quite jarring in some ways, showing quick cuts. It was directed by Mark Siebert, who's incredible, and Scouts Honor. They really brought home that feeling of, you know, this is life or death. But then they had the soundtrack, and, you know, we talked about unexpected. You had this motorcycle going down a hallway of a hospital. Those are the types of things that help make advertising stand out. And what I always want to try and avoid is that sea of sameness, which is, you know, something that's really safe, that makes you maybe feel a little bit of something, but doesn't make you uncomfortable. And I think the challenges for most brands, and then, you know, working with clients, and even when I was on client side, is just, what is that recipe? What's that secret sauce on making something a little bit different, making somebody feel a little bit uncomfortable, but it also, you know, resonates with the audience and the consumer, whatever the case may be.
I think that's great advice, and that's very quotable. Avoid the sea of sameness.
Yeah, easy to say, always harder to execute. And we've all seen campaigns that, you know, maybe got too uncomfortable too. So, you know, it's a thin line that marketers walk and storytellers walk. But if you can find a way to thread that needle, it can really pay off, because you can stand out. And there's so, you know, consumers, people are just bombarded by messages every single day. So how do you stand out, whether it's online or on TV or in cinema or anywhere? It's got to be somewhat different, you know? So that's the way I always approach it with clients.
I agree, and I heard you say insights too. And when I hear that, I'm thinking you don't just assume that you know what the audience might like. There's some informal or formal research that takes place when you try to maybe understand a bit deeper the target audience. Is that something that you're involved with too when preparing a campaign?
Yeah, I've done it both ways. So some marketers, some clients, some companies are just like, you know what? I don't care. I just want to make sure that I love it. And if we love it, then our consumer or our audience will love it. Other companies feel quite differently. More packaged goods companies, they want to test, and there's so many ways you can test now. Obviously, you can do it through research online, but you can also do, you know, brain sites in research, where you can get a sense just by watching a screen and, you know, electrodes on the brain, seeing what patterns emerge and which areas of the brain are lighting up based on what you're seeing. You know, where's that emotional connection in a 60-second spot? Where are the highs, the peaks, and then where are the valleys? And, you know, I've seen this done quite successfully, because it can also steer you in the right direction. If you do have a spot that maybe is a little edgier or different, it can be helpful guiding you and saying, you know what, we went too close to the edge, let's pull it back. Or this scene really resonates emotionally with the viewer, let's dial that up or do more of that. So, you know, like anything, you want to take all the inputs, put it all together, and then decide what works best for your brand, and then go for it.
That's great. So, yeah, so a bit of an advantage to anyone who has, you know, the brain chemistry measurement machine, whatever that's called, in terms of watching an ad. So that's a great way to stand out too. Maybe an expensive way, but certainly an advantage.
It's actually, you know, it's not so expensive, but it's just, I think as marketers, storytellers, you're always looking for any little bit of insight, any additional glimmer of information that can help you make the best, you know, TV spot or online spot or video possible. And, you know, there's other approaches too.
For sure. I wanted to shift to your TEDx talk that you gave in 2017, and it was called "In the Face of Adversity," which you took the audience not through a roller coaster, but a bobsleigh ride of emotions. I cried, I laughed, and I encourage everyone to watch In the Face of Adversity. In the Face of Adversity, the TEDx talk, and we'll put that in the show notes. What was that like, Derek, that experience of giving a TED talk?
Well, you know what? It had always been, as somebody in marketing and communications, so obviously a background in public relations and communications,
Mm-hmm.
I had seen so many TED Talks, and it had always been a dream of mine to participate in one. And so it stemmed from a presentation I did around the Olympic movement to a group of students at U of T. And one of them was organizing the TED Talk at their campus. And they said, hey, we really like the way you talked about athletes and adversity. Is there any way you would be interested in doing a TED Talk with us? And I said, oh my, this is amazing, of course. And so I was really honored. It was a great experience, a lot of discipline, because as people know with TED Talks, you can't, you got to memorize it. You can't use notes, you can't use a lectern, you can't use PowerPoint notes. So you've got to memorize everything and try and make sure that it comes across naturally. You've got cameras on you. It was an amazing experience. It was pretty stressful, but at the end of the day, I was really proud of what I talked about, and so I felt great about it.
So Derek, it's one thing to, of course, craft a story, make sure it has a beginning, middle, and an end, and create that tension, surprise, and delight. But then for some people, they're also in the position, like you were, of having to tell that story, deliver it orally to hundreds of people. What advice do you have for someone who is in that position of giving a talk?
Yeah, I think for anybody giving any type of speech in front of a small audience or large audience, it's stressful. And what's that statistic that most people would rather be in the coffin than delivering the eulogy?
Yeah.
And I think that's true. It's a stressful experience. So for me, giving a good speech talk is really about two main components. One is the content of the speech itself has to be solid. So what's the message you're trying to convey? What's the story that you're trying to tell? How are you bringing that story to life? Are you using the power of threes? So 3 examples and then supporting evidence. Do you have a strong, what I call a grabber at the beginning, something that grabs your audience? And then do you have a strong conclusion to wrap it all up together? So that is a key component to any speech. And then of course, there's the mechanics of the speech itself. So where are you speaking? How is it being delivered? How are you using technology? And all those other pieces, rehearsal will help you deliver a better talk.
All great advice. And I want to reiterate one of those points that you made, which was end strong. Folks, just because you got to the end of your talk doesn't mean it's time to take a breath. Make sure as you're getting toward the end, you want people to really put their hands together to say, woo, and to even get up off their feet. People want to feel that story right till the end. So I find myself always advising people about this, especially when I see student presentations. I put in big capital bold letters, underlined and italicized, end strong. So let's end strong, Derek, with Alter Empire and this concept of brand DNA, which I've read on your company's website a few times, and I'm really intrigued.
Yeah, really, at Alter, it's about building better brands and amplifying the brand storytelling. And when you think of a brand's DNA, it's what is at the core of the company? What do they stand for? When you think of a company like Nike, it's bring inspiration and innovation to athletes around the world. Mm-hmm. And so that's a guidepost for them. And for other companies, it might be something different. It might be about bringing joy or optimism. So, it really depends on the brand. And for us, it's really diving into what is at the core of that company's belief system, and then helping bring it to life through narrative storytelling. And so great companies do this in different ways, online and on TV, and we help them do that. So yeah, it's been a great ride. We've been working with some great companies, leading grocer in Canada, world-class sporting organization, and of course, top 5 insurer in Canada. So really happy with our clients, and looking forward to the future positively. Derek,
you are, and I've said it before publicly, to me, a a real definition of someone who's a class act. I want to say also DK rocks. And if you don't know what I'm referring to, I know Derek does, watch his TEDx talk and you'll know what I mean. Derek Kent can be reached on LinkedIn. Just look him up. I want to thank everyone for watching and listening. Derek, thank you very much.
Thanks, John, and thanks for a great initiative. I'm so honored to participate with a great group of guests, and look forward to seeing the podcast.
We're lucky to have you. Thanks again.